I just saw on StreamYard. This is new.
Hello,
Hey
hello.
everyone, we got stuff.
We got stuff to
Welcome.
show you. This is
Spooky.
like Blue's Clues.
Yeah. What is this?
or Dora the Explorer. Everyone has to
Yeah.
scream at their television or computer.
Lost Soul got the line we should have said. We should have said it's time.
Oh, it's time.
That would have been good.
All right. Well,
Welcome.
We're supposed to get matching alarm clocks, and I got the one that you recommended, but the cable's too short, and also it relies on plug-in power. It has a battery backup, so and where I live, power might go out anytime. So I was like, that's not a dependency I want. Yeah.
Is that like a U.S. infrastructure comment or like what's up?
Yeah, so it's a California infrastructure comment. I literally have like a solar power battery thing that like a giant like Jackery thing. Jackery sponsors.
Yeah, Jackery sponsors. What is it? What's Jackery?
The giant kind of generator, like a lithium generator.
Oh, yeah.
Giant power bank. And
I
got it because I thought, oh, I'm gonna go car camping with it. Lots of like cool Subaru ad sort of thing. But no, I use it at home to like power my stuff when it goes out randomly. So so I thought this is more of a reliable thing. I grew up with an alarm clock like this. It's a Casio. I wish I made a Japan one, but it's made in the
that does look like a hot red lipstick version of the one my grandfather used to have.
Exactly. Yes, and it only has one button. It's like a little thing.
I mean, that's pretty simple. I like simplicity.
Yeah. So, however, I totally didn't get this set right this morning because it has a little stick, and then I misread where that little stick should be. So, user operator error not eliminated.
I mean, we'll tune in to our next show to hear Kristen's next adventure in the alarm clock saga.
Exactly. Well, happy new month. Happy October. Everyone's pointing that out.
Stop. No, actually, no. I'm trying to. So I reflexively have this like, oh my God, time, the fleeting passage of time is moving too fast. But like, I don't want to have that energy. I want like an older version of me to be happier than today. So I'm like trying to not be negative about it, but I am a little grumpy today. What about you?
Oh, yeah, it reminds me of when King or someone reacted to someone saying, we're almost in 2025. And we're all like, oh God, that is not something we want to do. And I think, as you get older, it's like time passes by way faster, which is true because it's relative to how long you've been alive.
Yeah.
So enjoy your time perception while it's still slow. Can't imagine what it's like when we're at double the age.
Well, so I've thought about like the passage of time in the context of my army stuff, and like the amount of lines that I've had to wait in my life, as well as like non-line upable things that are just like we're gonna maybe happen in the next day or two or a couple days or whatever. Like sometimes I feel like I've literally trained in Dragon Ball Z's hyperbolic time chamber, because like sometimes I just like when we flew into Baghdad, they're just like, hey, we're going to get a flight down to Kandahar, which is like a different big old airfield. And we were just like, okay, when? And they're just like, sometime in the next month. Okay. And so like, we just like, we weren't really allowed to like go do stuff. And so we just like, we're just skirting around, no like internet or any just like 2016, locked in, just like, okay, we're here for the next however many weeks. And it took 3 weeks. And at the end of that, I was like, where the heck is my brain at?
Oh, yeah. I think it's amazing how when there's no internet, like definitely a perception of time slows down.
Yeah. I basically like time traveled through 2016, 17 and have like no context for any of the cultural moments during that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, chat, like name as many 2016 things that happened that Cameron needs to know as he's pulling up the bangers.
There's a big one that I still regret missing out on, but let me get these bangers up.
All right.
Maybe say hi to some folks.
I'll say hi to everybody. Lost Soul, Holdo CEO, Nona, Dungeon Master Emmy, who I think is Dirty Hippie, Tsunade, Smalley, Zach, Law, Bubbles, which I was always Bubbles because it's got 2S. Huggle Monster.
Yeah.
Abeg, very nice to see you. Sam Vox. Marianne Music. And I hope I hit everybody. Oh, Ivy.
Yeah.
Isis. W's in the chat. Yeah, exactly.
Let's go.
All right.
Also,
Mia just joined.
We got our new screen layout. It doesn't look like much, but we're a lot bigger. And so hopefully it's a better viewing experience. I completely forgot that we did this. Cobb, thank you for your first time jumping into the show. Welcome, welcome. All right. Let's get this this bang. First, how do you find novel experiences, slow down time? Oh my gosh, we got so many fun things to talk about. All right. We'll talk about that in 1 second. All right, so Kristen, this is from Blank Space, the user, and it is just a picture of some really dope phones. One from 2003, one from 2012. Did you ever own any phones like this?
Yeah, I had my Nokia, but not that one, that, you know, the indestructible one, but a variation of it, the 3310 or something. It's got more of a rubbery grip and like a pseudo faux military look.
Was it okay? So is it like a tough book kind of energy?
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Melanin, you're not invisible. Yeah. Okay.
How about you?
I really wanted to own a cool phone when I was younger, but my parents were very practical, and so I got like track phones or whatever you call them, just like a normal like flip phone kind of things, not like design like the cool phone. And I'm dating myself a little bit. Was the Razor? Did you have like kids in your high school that had like a Razor phone?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so there's like the Razor, and then also there was like a texting focused one that I think was a Motorola phone, and it just like flipped up. You know what I'm talking about? It was like the Kim Possible communicator kind of thing. Oh, dude, that one was so cool. But so I picked this one for the Create Show banger, like the first one, is because like I think it's really interesting to look at stuff that we have seen a lot of examples of. Like, obviously, there's tons of different kinds of like cell phones. But like you can do this thing that everybody else or a lot of other people have done, but created in such a way that like one or two core things are just like thematically different. And it like really changes, in this case, the feel of the device. But like, I think you can change the feel of anything that you try to make by like just messing with the formula in like one or two big ways. Does that make any sense?
Totally. And I've never seen this particular phone before until right now.
Yeah, I think it's like this really, like, it's not like neat and even. There's like these weird red buttons in there. Like it doesn't feel like there's a rhyme or reason to it, but there's clearly a theme going on here. And I just like want to keep looking at it to understand what the heck they were trying to decide.
I think it's the asymmetry.
Yeah.
Why are those buttons red? I don't quite get it.
Yeah, me either, but I love it. Oh, and then someone BBB dropped T-Mobile Sidekick. That was the phone that I was like super jealous of.
Yeah, Sidekick was cool.
Yeah,
and that's a whole tactile thing to do with that too, right?
Yeah,
flip it out.
Yeah, I was talking about tactile memory formation on Fartcaster the other day. All right, let's get this one going. All right, so this one's weird. So, have you heard about the Pear AI drama over on the Bird app?
Yes, I have. I've seen one tweet, therefore I'm perfectly informed.
Yeah, you are as informed as most people on the internet. So for the audio listeners, what are your thoughts on the Pear AI drama? They apparently made a copy, not even a GitHub fork, of an open source software repo, rebranded it, changed the license, and got into Y Combinator with it. No details to how to be different from the open source project. I don't care. Like, I don't have a personal opinion about this.
Well, here's the thing. I feel like the Gary Tan types would love these people.
Yeah.
You know that, right? Yeah. Like, so for those who don't know, like, one of the questions on Y Combinator is literally, when's the last time you broke the law or did something like to cheat or something like that? Do you know what I'm talking about? They select these personalities.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like stating that a little bit different way. Like, they are optimizing for people that are focused on speed of ship. And so, like, in this context, it means like, how fast do they get something onto this bot on Discord is trying to get us to play together on something.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I want to pull it up.
Yeah, do it. Hey guys, we got bots, but that's fun. All right, so that's a signal that something good is happening over on our platforms. But so like we know that there's a systemic push in entrepreneurship, like ostensibly because it makes companies with a higher likelihood of success. We know that there's this push for people that are like really, really fast to the point of maybe being a little bit gross about how they build stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Copying open source software, that's not really a thing because it's open source depending on the license. So like being upset they did that, to me just feels like a lot of people on the internet being angry about things. But like it raises an interesting question about like what does creating stuff mean? Like when you think about making stuff, how much of it do you consider like a remix versus like original Kristen work, and like original in the fattest of air quotes, because I know that's like a heavy thing to put on top of anything you do.
I think it's impossible to be original, but yet all we can do is be original. It's one of those koan situations.
Okay. Say more.
Because almost everything that a creator does has been done by somebody in some way. Like especially if you're doing so like running a course or a community or whatever. Like someone's done it. But the art of it is to do it your way. Yeah. And I think this gets into, of course, it's like someone is like, well, no duh, like you should be yourself. Like kind of like useless advice. But like, which we can get into in a bit in the second half of the show. Because there's like so many details buried in this like one little saying, right? Of like, just be yourself. But you can't be yourself without like meeting the market. Or like if you want to, get distribution and all of that. So
Chat, please don't let us forget to answer the question, should you be yourself on the internet? The answer may surprise you. Sorry. All right, let's just go to the next one.
Was that cough or burp?
that was me vomiting at being engaging. Sometimes when I feel like I'm putting on the suit, I'm like, ugh, don't do that. Be like more earnest. But like being authentically engaging is like also me too. Like, not that I'm like particularly engaging, you know what I mean? I'm all over the place this morning. Let's just go to the next one. All right, so I'm 93.7% sure Warpcast changed the font recently from our friend Jack.eth. This one I think is like a sneaky banger. Do you have any thoughts on like why?
I don't know. It flew over my head.
So, okay, first of all, Alex Payton, thanks for dropping in. And Maryam's Music, thank you so much for being so engaged in the chat.
Yeah, and hello, Melanin. Right. I did totally miss you. This is why usually Cameron does the chat acknowledgements, because I'm terrible at reading everyone's name. So sorry about that.
Yeah, it's surprisingly tough to just like read words on a page.
Yes.
The reason why I think this is a sneaky banger is it is like it's low-key community involvement, but oriented around a like yes or no question that has like a debatable aspect to it. Like, because the font change was subtle enough that people weren't sure about it. And so Jack raising the question, especially as like a designer who like he has credibility already in the space of like looking at things and like judging them. Like it basically gives a bunch of other people the opportunity to be like, oh yeah, or like, I don't know. Like it's like the what color is the dress thing, or like what are they saying? It's like it's in the same category of content as all of those things, where like everybody like what you need to do to participate in this, and the barrier is very, very low, which is like, and it's you can't do it every time you post, but like when you post on trend with something like this, it can hit really, really hard because you already have like a pre-made audience of people that want to talk about this kind of thing because they might have been thinking it too.
And I think naming the number as 93.7% gives you credibility because of
the false precision. Yeah. I love that.
But did they change the font? I'm like, oh, did Blockheim change the font?
I don't know.
I'm around with the shades of purple and DCs and things.
Yeah, like I've noticed a couple of like not super small, but like small little delightful things that are happening on the app. But like they're very much only in the process of me using it that I notice it, which I think speaks to like really good design. I don't know, but we'll see. Chat, do you think they changed the font? Let us know. All right, so this, like, I picked a little bit more technical bangers than I normally do, but I think it makes sense with the act of creating. All right, so this is from Zach Terrell. Honestly, the Shad CDN repo, which is like a component repo for app front end stuff. I have some other stuff in there too. The Shad CDN repo contains a lot of alpha on how to structure a Next.js project. Niche, very targeted, but also really, really interesting in like a big picture way. Does that make any sense?
I gets back to what you said about good jokes, inside jokes. That's how I felt when I read this one.
So I actually don't think this is like a joke. I view this one as like, when you are looking at a high quality thing, something with a lot of like craft that people that are good at what they're doing put out into the world. I found some of the most interesting lessons from studying that thing to be like the oblique lessons, like the things that you see like through the act of them doing it, not like the thing themselves. So like in this case, yes, they did a lot of work to make these like nice front end components. Actually, most of the Seymour components are some sort of variation of a ShadCN component. But like looking at how they structured their project is like a way, like, because like the repo itself is organized in a way that's like, hey, this is how you keep a lot of like, when there are a lot of things happening in a code project, how do you like organize it? Learning that kind of stuff is like learning how a painter painted a painting versus just like what they were trying to accomplish with it for me, which I find really, really interesting.
You didn't reply anything.
Frozen, or are you frozen, or neither of us frozen?
You're
Chat,
frozen.
let me know if y'all have seen any glitches in the Matrix.
You're frozen to me, and maybe we should refresh or something.
What about now? Am I back?
We're caught up.
Ah!
Well, while Cameron...
I did crush that can.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to shut up. Kristen, you take over. It's bad, okay?
Okay. As usual, I don't know whether it's Cameron's internet or my internet, but I wish you didn't close the screen though. But it is our last one.
Well, I stopped sharing the screen so we can just roll into the combo if I'm unfrozen.
Oh, okay. You are unfrozen. But I think you can't hear me saying that.
Y'all, it's intermittent. I get.
So funny.
It's my office. The internet here freaking sucks. So I'm moving to a home office here in the next few months, so that'll pick it up. But I think I'm caught up now.
All right. Do you see me sharing the screen? Oh, I'm not using the big, slightly bigger one. There you go.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. So
awesome.
Yeah, I think you and I both loved Silly Goose's latest series of postings. So it is Lovejoy's birthday. And they've been posting lots of variations of the PFPs. It's almost like this is like the waifu PFP, but done manually.
Yeah.
Which goes to show, it's like, yeah, you don't even need to code. If you want to make a custom PFP thing, just do it manually. And then like the fact that people reply will get your post or your cast up there anyway. Yeah, but there was like so many fun variations.
Yeah, and so for people that didn't see it, Silly Goose just like I think had built some sort of image to a goose caricature of that image, program or tool, and then anybody that responded to her post just got a duck picture based off of their existing profile picture, which is like, it's not changing the world, but everybody that saw it like got a little chuckle out of it.
Mhm.
and everyone got to like make goose jokes for like a day. It was like that's peak internet, right? It's just a bunch of goofy fun that doesn't really have to be more than just fun.
Mhm.
Like creating stuff for me, like that's one of my favorite spaces when like something I make accidentally falls in this just like unserious, like just good old fashioned fun. I think that stuff is great.
Yeah. Melon, I'll take a shot every time Cameron freezes. I hope you're sober enough to watch the rest of the show. Oh my gosh.
I'm drunk, so
Oh yeah? Is that
yeah,
Jack and Coke? Jack and Diet Coke.
feeling myself.
Mhm.
But, all right, so let's get serious. We got to talk about creating.
Get serious? No, we're supposed to get silly. Did we learn nothing from Silly Goose?
Let's get unserious. Let's talk about creating.
Yeah. All right. So, you and I have essentially this is all we talk about all day anyway.
Yeah,
So
pretty much.
almost like a pulling back the curtain. Um, I posted like never run out of ideas as one of the topics. What was that?
Yeah, this is me pulling back the curtain.
Oh, you need to cry. This is something upsetting to you. I posted never run out of ideas as a joke, actually, because you and I never run out of ideas. We just never have enough time to do all of them, which is its own kind of hell.
Yeah, we if y'all are not familiar with the insides of our Google Drive, which I certainly hope you're not.
Yeah.
We more or less record everything that we like think of as like, oh, this might be interesting, or oh, that might be good, or oh, that might be funny. And then I think almost never look back at it, but we save it. So that's one of the reasons why we don't run out of ideas. But do you have like so for me this whole thing is kind of like a journey of discovery about like how I do things and how like I want to continue to do things and what like works and what doesn't. Do you have like a pre us philosophy and then like us working together, has that changed your philosophy at all?
Oh, 100%. Um, I think before I still do this to a lot of large extent, even just before the show. But it's always like, oh God, we gotta be doing XYZ. And we only have time to do none of these things.
Yeah.
So I think like I was thinking to be like before we started the show, it's like there's like the joy of being a beginner is that you don't have that many choices of things you could do in the beginning. So
Yeah.
therefore you can like purely do your thing and then like whether it will land or not, that's something else. But like there's no distraction because you don't have that many decisions to make in the first place. Whereas when you're intermediate, that's when most of the skill is making decisions and prioritizing and all of that. So like I would say before, like it used to be like, let's do 1,000 ideas, but now I'm already like I've decreased the number of things I pitched to you by like 90%. And you went up 10%. I think you shoot down like 9% of it and then went up with like 1%, which is great because I feel like I need more like pruning away at this stage rather than adding more things.
Yeah. We're like a
in any way, shape possible.
So can I what?
Oh,
What'd you say?
Did I change? Did I have any influence on you at all? Was it a one-way street?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that like
compliments.
So there's like a I mean, if I'm being honest, I kind of consider everybody in my life to have like a meaningful influence, even the people I only meet for 10 minutes. So I'm not trying to like diminish the amount, but also I want to be honest about the context of interactions. So I do think I have changed a lot, but also a lot of people change a lot of things. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, but also
what an unsatisfying answer.
I don't know. Dude, I like live on the razor edge of not committing to things, I think a little too much. And conversations with you have been really interesting because I like am forced to grapple where my answers are fundamentally unsatisfying, which like I don't normally do because I just like don't normally get to the stage of conversing with people that deeply because it's like easy to I think we talked about polite fictions on a previous episode, but like it's just easy to be like, oh yeah, no, that's cool. When in fact I want to like say, 30 minutes more worth of stuff. our friendship is that like extra 30 minutes of conversation, both like on the show and elsewhere. So I think that like through us interacting, I have been forced to think a lot more thoughtfully about some of the things that I just kind of like took as true, which I appreciate.
Do you think people should find, when people want to do any like a creator thing, do you think they should do it by themselves, or do you think they should find like a partner to do it with? Which sounds bad out of context.
I needed to be by myself for the first year plus of doing content-y type stuff, both on like Farcaster and Twitter and YouTube, all these places. I needed to do it for a year by myself so that I would be a good partner when we started working together. I think if we started working together like 2+ years ago, I would have been a bad partner. Cause I just like, yeah. I mean, cause you've done like real reps with like previous shows on like somewhat related topics. Like, do you feel like you're doing it better the way like, or doing it more in the way that you want this time around?
Well, yes, but it's also because I learned from those lessons.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's where I'm like, oh, I also don't want to throw any of my previous partners under the bus. Although Art Lou, I always enjoy throwing under the bus. So like, because, and I think that's where like a lot of questions we got about like have to do with like starting something. And I think like that's where a lot of my blanket advice always comes down to should I do A, B, or C? They like, you know, friends would ask me, and I'll be like, we don't know until you do one of them, because I'm not your source of data. like your audience is your source of data. And so like in that sense, like having a partner, if that helps with getting more reps, I think is helpful. And like, especially if you want to like have an accountability partner, essentially, because it's sometimes when you are doing your own creative project, you can procrastinate till the end of the earth. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Whereas
it's all research.
Another person, when it's another person, you're like, okay, we got to ship like yesterday, and so that really helps. I think. But there's also
accountability is real.
Yeah.
Like I think I'm a better version of myself when I'm on the hook for other people. Like obviously we're independent people, and like one of our things isn't like the downfall of the other if like one of us screws something up. But like it's real if that like I show up to this like Tuesday show at 11 a.m. like not ready, it like meaningfully impacts you because the show kind of sucks, and so like, or it could suck. And so like that's a real benefit that I didn't really consider until this conversation. So I appreciate you pushing that. I like think by talking a lot of the time. So this show is actually a vital part of my day. I wanted to hit on the beginner thing. Also, that is an interesting quote about Show Your Work. I haven't read Show Your Work, but it sounds like something that Adrian would like to read about Scenius, but also myself. All right. So beginners at stuff have limited options because they don't know what the heck they're doing. And this is like what you just said. This is the chart I was talking about before.
We did make ourselves bigger. This one.
Oh my gosh, I pressed the wrong button again, y'all. So I found this chart on the internet. This is what I was like trying to describe earlier. But like, it's really, really important to recognize that when you get to stage 2, which is I think where we're at, this informed pessimism about our ability to, you know, accomplish various things, like the valley of despair is almost a guarantee, because it is the same thing as like man being confronted with the reality that they cannot do all of the things that they want to do in their lifetime. They can do a lot of things. They could potentially do things they want to do from today until the day that they die, but they can't do everything because the human lifespan doesn't allow for it. And so I kind of view the like moving up the expertise curve and like making content on the internet as like a continual exercise in
falling into the valley of despair.
falling in, but then pulling yourself back out of it into this informed optimism cluster, kind of cyclical. You can't see my mouse, but like I think it's like a cyclical thing where just like grief, you don't feel bad once and then it stops. Like it continues to kind of hit you in waves, and like depending on what's going on in your life, it'll be more or less impactful, on any given week. But the like acceptance of this like perpetual like crest and trough of your emotional energy in it is really, really important. And I think the partner aspect of it, which we're talking about, is also critical for reducing the emotional variance, like in any given day or week.
Exactly. So I think the joy of working with someone else is, hopefully this works out that way, is that's you're both at different time points. So if one person's in a valley of despair, hopefully the other person's like kicked up into optimism and can pull you out of it, and we can take turns.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's annoying because this is also one of those startup things that is like true, and it's annoying when like bougie VCs are right about stuff, because it's like it just feel like it's annoying to listen to them. But I built what is now Seymour solo for 1.5 years, kind of unintentionally. I started with a partner, and then they left a couple months in. Night and day difference versus like having someone like I do now to just like get on with and talk about the thing every day. And like, honestly, I still feel like I'm digging myself out of this like hyper independent to the point of just like, I don't know, self destruction. Just because like, it's so hard to do anything that doing it by yourself is a lot of the times putting an extra rock in your rucksack that you don't need. Like sometimes you don't have money and you can't hire people, whatever. But like, if you don't have to go alone and you're not so foul personality that like people don't want to interact with you, like I think doing it with other people is often the right answer.
Yeah, and so to the rest of what the co-creators are not in sync. So I think this is where like we are. I think it's good to be in sync for like strategies and tactics.
Yeah.
But like this is where that word that I taught Cameron a few episodes ago, co-regulation, comes in.
Yeah, bring it back, run it back.
Exactly, where it helps to have someone who's one person can be stable and the other person can be like headless chicken for like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
I think that helps to keep us moving.
Yeah. What was the last thing that we disagreed on? Because we've disagreed on some stuff.
Yeah, I think we like. Oh, gosh,
maybe like
the good thing about working with me is that I have a really bad memory. So if you ask me to recall something that you're upset about or whatever, I don't literally can't remember.
So I want to reframe that as not having a bad memory, but you have a next play attitude. You have you have a pro NBA player attitude of like, okay, we just did a thing.
Lovely reframe.
Like, yeah, we might have screwed that one up, or it didn't go the way that we planned, but okay. I mean, we got 100 plus more plays left in this quarter in the game. Like, let's just freaking do it. What's the next play? And like, that goldfish memory is like a staple of sports movies, but it's also like, I think really, really important for this emotional variance thing where like, it's not quite deluluing yourself into success, but it is being unburdened by what has been, if we're going to use the meme.
Oh, wow. That sounds a lot better. I will tell my wife that later with no attribution.
Carter, what are you disagreeing
about? I think we disagree about like focus related things.
Yeah.
Because I think what happens between me and Cameron behind the scenes is I'm always I read the experiment out way too early.
Yeah.
I'm always like the one who's like, the watch pot never boils. My eyes are just glued the entire time. I'm going, oh no, we're doing the wrong thing. Or okay, I don't think Cameron even knows. Sometimes I bring things up when my friend is doing well in another certain platform, and I'm going, oh no, we're not on that one, but they're popping on that one. And usually you have to shut me down because, as you know, that's just, you can't chase what other people get.
I don't. To be clear, I don't shut you down. Okay. I will say, I'll ignore stuff that you send sometimes because I know you're going to be like, in 30 minutes. Got a lot of mixed metaphors here. Yeah, you know, that's what you're in for. We're creating words. If we don't invent a word on OK Banger, I've failed at some point. But so, Kristen, like, if I don't respond to some of the stuff that you send in like an hour or two, you will change your perspective on that thing anyway. And so, like, I don't have to push you. Just like, you just decide what you actually want to think about it. The other thing that I do is I'll be like, I'll ask like a basic thing is like, is this the most important thing that we need to be doing, or is this the next right thing? I've asked a couple times, mostly as like a question to myself, but like I found that to be a useful reframing. Like, is that like noise?
Oh, it's super useful. And again, it's sort of like you've tried a few things and now you're trying more things kind of challenge, where now you have even more things you could possibly try because you've developed your skill enough to try even lots of new things. So I think like that's where a lot of these questions that arise about like finding your niche and all of that, like the implicit question is, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Right.
When you're deciding what the next right thing is, what are you using to calculate that? We have some, I think, like important overlaps on that. What was that?
I lick my finger and I stick it in the wind. No.
That's not the worst thing to do though. Like if we were both brand new and like had never done anything.
I think this is where I have more experience in this regard, right?
Yeah.
So oh, by the way, we're supposed to bring up our street cred, which we totally forgot.
Street cred. We're both great and nice people. No, okay. So like the quick around the world is we have a combined 280,000 followers from the good old Warpcast algorithm helping us out. We're growing on our YouTube channel and we are filling out a bunch of cool places on the internet. What other stuff do we do?
So
you've done a lot.
Yes. So I used to run a meditation and journaling reflective community for like an entire year. And like and I've been on Twitter like I've done the Twitter 0 to 1,000 followers grind, which I
multiple
think
times
harder than like, you know, the future numbers. So, and then actually I have a YouTube channel separate from this one that where one of the viewers videos got like 10,000 views and like, you know, 60 comments or something like that. So it's like I've had like the mini like pseudo viral pop in a very specific niche thing before.
You've seen the face of God.
Yeah, exactly. Like just the back, just the bald spot. So like enough to realize that there are certain things you can do that have a much more much higher distribution maximal outcome. Yeah. So that's why we chose YouTube. So like because, you know, at least the YouTubers we admire, you can do the same amount of work in smaller platforms exclusively. But because the platform only has this much maximum size, I'm not even saying which one, but maybe y'all heard of it. like you can never actually grow that big. Therefore, you have to be constantly like seeking out places where it's like, okay, what is the maximum possible thing you can reach? And has to deal with that platform's existing population size and also whether the algorithms are favorable to new creators.
So kind of saying that back, you have a lot of reps and trial and error in figuring out where to take asymmetric bets. Is that correct? Okay? Yeah, and I think that's 100% accurate. Now, I don't know if you saw this from old Triple B here. He thinks we're more like co-finders instead of co-founders. What do you feel about that?
I really like that.
I think so too. I like, so y'all don't see this, but like Chris and I talk a lot about how do we frame OK Banger as like a thing that isn't just a niche place on the internet where the vibes are good. That's like where we want to be today, but we also want to be, you know, we want to like reach a lot of people. That's like the point. You know, we want to feel good about what we do and reach a lot of people and hopefully make a lot of people's like days better, more efficient, more peaceful, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And like we talk a lot about the concept of the hero's journey and how we like experience a version of the hero's journey anytime we decide to do something different or like ambitious or even like normal in your day. And the
Mm-hmm.
co-finders line reminds me a lot about the call to adventure in a hero's journey story. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like I do think we do a lot of searching for or like looking or hopefully finding the opportunities for calls to adventure. That's what I'm like really excited about that we I think do pretty well together.
I agree. And Arjun says, but the question is whether maximum big is important when creating what's big enough the thing you should chase. I also agree with that. So
Yeah.
like, and that's I think how Cameron and I are lucky to have so many like followers and friends on Farcaster because we grew with it. So we were like little fries that grew with the size of the
The
pond.
network. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gone from a puddle to a slightly larger puddle. So right? Like so which is nice because when I look at my feed, I pretty much know everybody like
Yep.
for the most part, at least in my little corner. And I think as a new creator, it is so much better to be in a smaller spot.
Yep.
And like that's where back in the day I was in these like private communities like Rite of Passage where each cohort is about a few hundred people, so you're
Yep.
also able to reach meaningfully reach a lot more people that way. Whereas if you start in cold on YouTube by yourself, that is a really hard grind.
That's starting from the depths of despair.
Mm-hmm.
The you mentioned Rite of Passage. You're doing something with them now, right?
Yes. So, Rite of Passage is a writing course run by David Perel, and it's on its last cohort, coming up in October, and I'll be an editor on the crew.
Sick.
Yes, but I think that's a classic example, right? Rite of Passage is shutting down essentially because that whole distribution model is really tough. Like if you're running a frankly expensive like writing course, like you quickly maximize like maximally reach your audience of people who can afford it. So it's almost like the creator operations game is like figuring out your actual like TAM, like total market size, depending on who you can reach.
Well, okay, so that's an interesting question for the chat. Can y'all let us know if you want us to like talk more about creating conceptually or creating practically? Because I think those are like two different, very important things to talk about. And we're obviously going to do an episode specifically on both, but like this is kind of introing it. Cobb, while y'all are thinking about that question, Cobb is going to tell all of their friends about this live, which we really appreciate. If everybody else does that, maybe we can get to that 1,000 or what do we say, 10,000 followers or 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, and then we'll do something funny.
Then you will see a photo of Cameron doing his emo face.
Oh yeah, dang it!
That's what I had offered.
I shouldn't have brought that up. I thought that might have died if I didn't bring it up. I genuinely forgot what we were gonna do.
You walked right into that little trap.
That's okay. I need the ego death. Minako asks, has there ever been a time where we give up on a plan just because we couldn't come to an agreement? I want to say no, but like on my end, I really, so Amazon, there's a lot of things to say about Amazon and Jeff Bezos and the company, but like you can't deny it's one of the linchpin companies in the economy today. Like it's very, very important. And he wrote a list of leadership principles that Amazon, at least for a while, like was run by. And one of the ones I really, really like, which I don't think people index on enough or like pay attention to enough, is the idea of disagreeing and then committing. Like smart people disagree about stuff all the time. But in order to really be a high performing team, the smart people need to disagree about it. And then whoever is like the responsible party in the decision makes the call, and then everybody works and rows in the same direction. And so that like disagree and commit is I've seen it work like in the military really, really effectively, at Amazon when I interned there. And so like I try to embody that because like there's a lot of stuff that you know better than me, especially around like video content creation, because you've done the reps in there. Do you feel that way, or do you like have a different thought on us disagreeing?
Yeah, we don't because I feel like it's when we bring things up, it's almost like we don't disagree. We try to agree on whether it matches our preset strategy and principles. Because it's like we already agreed on that overarching thing.
Yeah.
I think it's good marriage relationship advice. Because I've seen my friends do this. If you're married to someone, I think it's almost like you should treat it like a company in a way, and be like, you guys have like a shared goal and like a shared principle or mission or something. And then like a lot of your decisions should be based on whether what you're gonna do matches that shared mission, rather than like arguing with each other about what you should do moment to moment, because then you just end up having endless arguments.
Yeah, you definitely want like the arguments to be a point on the journey, not the end state of the journey. And I think a lot of people live in that mindset. Like for us, I think the strategically aligning on where we want to go and then using that to make our tactical decisions has been one of the big game changers for me. Because like, you can say you're thinking strategically about what you're doing, but unless you're like interacting with somebody else that like forces you to be like, hey, you said our most important goal was YouTube subscribers, but all the things you're recommending is like growing on like Farcaster. That's important. That's like a real criticism of strategy not aligning with tactics.
Exactly. And I'm seeing that the chat's overwhelmingly seeking practical discussions.
I love that. We're pragmatists at our core.
Yeah. So
yeah, go for it.
And I think this is the tricky thing, right? Because like there's a reason why, like, especially with AI now, you can access all the advice you want in every permutation, but the art of it is knowing which one applies to you. And I think one thing that's tricky for many of us, especially like myself and those in the chat, is that you're rarely starting off from zero. You actually already have like a little base of audience. And the tricky part is when you're starting to grow, like, and now you may have to consider being cross-platform or whatever. Like that's where the messaging of what you tell people starts to fragment. And also because you can realistically be only in a few places at the same time, like some population of your audience will feel neglected at any one point.
So
I think it's this like gluing step that nobody ever talks about in the creator journey. It's like, you know, you start off with like you have like many logo blocks and they don't fit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why it's not talked about because it's not an easy answer. Like it's so easy. Like I'm not saying the outcome is easy to achieve, but it's so easy to put up a video that says, this is how you hack the algorithm to get 100,000 views on your next video, because like everybody wants it to be that easy for you to watch a 7-minute video and then be able to go viral on a platform the next day. Obviously, that's not how any of it works. You can learn useful stuff from it, but like the nuance around growing and continuing to grow is unfortunately a game of understanding marketing channels and like adapting the things that you're doing to the specific channels without losing the core bit of like spark that made creating the thing fun for you in the first place, I think.
Yeah. And I think even with my friends who've been doing this for a while, there's still a lot of reluctance to admit that what we do is 99% marketing.
Yeah. And reps.
Yeah.
Like, and actually, okay, let me unpack reps a little bit, because we talk about this a lot. You actually had I think one of the coolest things that we've talked about in a chat where like, maybe you can say, but you basically looked at something and was like, oh, I'm thinking about this in terms of the wrong metrics. Let me change my brain or like invert it to think about this in terms of like output. Can you talk about that for a second?
Do you mean like, do you mean how we're supposed to focus on inputs rather than outputs, or?
Well, so it was like you brought yourself to refocus on the number of reps that you were doing about something. Your videos, your singleton videos.
Oh, that! I was like, what are you referring to?
Yeah.
So yeah, here's a realistic scenario. So I posted that one like 5-minute video, right? And
go watch it.
Yes, it's called Beginner, actually. And my goal was, okay, now I'm gonna crank out a whole bunch. And this weekend, I told Cameron, oops, I psyched myself out because Cameron had given me some feedback. I had some feedback myself, and then that became like way too daunting. So I think there is this whole like game of like, okay, so I want to optimize for reps and input instead. How can I do that? So I told Cameron, okay, please make me accountable for numbers. So you can see I'm supposed to post 9 videos by Friday, an absurd number. But like that helps me recalibrate to what is meaningful. And then the reason why I am, again, like I'm almost like regathering all my existing content from various platforms and focusing on this channel is what's happening. Because the lesson I've learned in the past few years is the lack of continuity I have with my audience, like, has really like not been beneficial. And it's because like, I have a Substack that I like used to post really regularly, but because I'm on Farcaster, I no longer had time to write regularly. So then I lost touch with part of an audience. And like, again, the challenge that I'm faced with now is like gluing all the pockets of people I know back together so that they'll be interested in this show.
Yeah, I think like that kind of sums up, someone was pointing out assumptions that we have in this. Like, want to just point out there is no right answer to what a successful creator looks like. Like, you get to make that definition for you. If like you make a video a week and it goes out to I use like Sailing Knots as like an example of like a niche community that I know exists on the internet.
Right.
Like if you like making Sailing Knot videos and putting one a week, and then like that's your version of success, like do that. The economics of the internet kind of demand full-time creation unless you like have really special circumstances, like live in a super low cost of living area, something like that. Like, you kind of got to get pretty big in order to make any of the math work for sponsorships or affiliate like earnings or anything like that. So like, that's kind of our assumption when we're talking about it. But so other big assumptions that I don't think we've named, like one of the big ones is that if we get better every day, we'll say 1% as like a catchy way. If we get better 1% every day and we maximize our number of shots on goal, over time, we're going to win. Like, that's like an explicit bet we're both making with how we're producing OK Banger and the other stuff that we're doing. Do you think that's fair?
That is. And I kind of also want to get back to a practical tip as well, which is like watering holes. I think this is like a very controversial, I don't know why it's become kind of controversial to even say that word, watering holes. So do you know what I'm talking about? Like, this is actually related to that book Traction, which I really recommend people to read, that Cameron recommended to me a while back.
We'll drop it in the OK Banger channel.
Yeah. So I think for a creator to grow, like, you don't necessarily have to like partner with someone for like a long period, like me and Cameron, but like, you need to know where people who might like your stuff are already hanging out. And usually like they're congregating around another community or another creator. And that's like a watering hole. It's almost like a savanna. Everyone has to drink somewhere. So it is advantageous for folks to partner or to do collabs with like, where people are already hanging out. So maybe a percentage of those people might also like your stuff. And I think like that is the move that I see like that has helped most of my friends grow the fastest.
That's real. And unfortunately is pure marketing, right? Like the thing creators don't really want to do. It works the same way with startup stuff. There is a reason why the person who has never worked in like defense generally can't sell defense stuff to the government, because they don't know anybody in the government. They don't know how to get customers that are in the government, and they like have no idea how like the acquisitions process works. And if you don't know those things, it's very, very hard to get a government to pay you tens of millions of dollars, unsurprising. And so like being like knowing the space where all the people that really like Sailing Knots hangs out is really important if you want to make your Sailing Knot channel distributed to a lot of people. The other thing that I think is really important that kind of gets glossed over with repetitions is that it's not the amount of time that you spend doing stuff that matters, although that like is impactful. I think the most impactful thing is the amount of completed end-to-end reps of the thing you're trying to do.
Yeah.
because you can start making 50 videos, and if none ever get published, you're really probably not learning nearly as much as like you could be if you actually published the thing.
100%. And I think that's where like the whole building in public, as cheesy as it is, and go up to by indie hacker types, like that is super important. And I think like most people who are like beginners get stuck way too much on the perfecting step, which makes
getting the lighting really right sense. Or whatever.
The audience is not yourself; it's someone else. No. So you never complete the feedback cycle if you don't show it to someone, and like and showing it enough times. I think like there's also again the marketing like adage that you have to say what you want 7 times, and I think that's the other part that's most people can't handle. It's like especially creative people, right? Because creative people, we never want to repeat anything. Like we're constantly trying to create unique experiences in our lives forever and ever, and that is not so great for marketing because you have to do enough exact repetitions, and that I think you have more patience than me for that, for sure.
I mean, it's just unfortunately learned experience that nobody cares about your thing. Like
yet.
Like nobody owes you any attention. Nobody like everybody is busy, doesn't make enough money, and is just trying to like enjoy their day a little bit better. And so coming at it from the mindset of, oh, I have to like fight tooth and nail and also outsmart the algorithmic gods, like that I think for me helps me focus on making hopefully a show that's like pretty entertaining and worth like the hour we're asking people to spend on it.
Yeah. So and I pulled up what BBB said because I hear this a lot, especially from like artist types, that there was a purity to the art, and that if you care too much about what other people think, then it's not great art anymore. So I was wondering how you would address that.
I think that's a luxury belief. I think I do. Like, and in the same breath, I like really respect people that can focus that and also don't have like a trust fund or whatever backing them up. Like if you have a trust fund, I don't care about your opinion of trying to make it as an early artist, because
and it's not necessarily trust fund. It's like if your livelihood is not dependent on your heart, on your art, then do whatever you want.
Yeah. Like and there's a comment earlier, and it was like in a joke, but it's real. It's like chasing the bag is a precondition to being able to continue to do the stuff that you want to put out into the world, right? Like creating art or music or whatever. For most people, they can't just decide to keep doing that because they have the inconvenience of needing money to not starve to death.
Right.
And that's like most people. And so I don't think it's like, I don't think it's like a bad way to go about it, but it's like a different situation than what we're talking about. Cause a lot of people really do want to like either supplement or like full-time spend time doing the funny videos or music, whatever that they like to do. And it's not so obvious how you do that. So most of the things that we're trying to answer are that, because that's the question we're trying to answer for ourselves too. Right. And so, surprise, surprise, everything we do on the show is us struggling through our mental processing journey.
And I think one thing that's brought up in the chat too is the idea of paying, right? Of the idea of selling. I think that's another like very ironically controversial idea. I think like to me, the idea of selling, like nothing tells you about your market more than asking someone to pay for what you're offering, because that gives you the truest data. However, like charging for something usually also hurts distribution, because that means some people can't see it. So how do you think, creator, beginner, intermediate creator can tune these variables?
I mean, it's a little, I don't know, childish to say, but you want to do what kind of feels right while also listening to people that are like clearly further along than you in a journey. I really do think it's important to just listen to your gut. Because if like somebody's asking you to do something and you're like, oh, this feels wrong, my detector's going off, like you might be right about that thing. Because there's a lot of people that are pretty gross that sell stuff on the internet. But if you are trying something and you've been trying it for like a couple months and it's not working, like it's a good idea to reassess whether your like feelings are calibrated correctly, or like you're afraid of putting yourself out in front of other people. Because I think if you truly believe in what you're making, it's not just a bunch of slop you're throwing out there because you don't care about it.
Mm-hmm.
You almost have like an obligation to show it to other people because you are making what you believe needs to be in the world, but other people aren't seeing it.
Yeah, and I believe that like art and offerings and all of that are made better by working with the audience to to craft it essentially. Actually, BBB saying that, is a joke funnier if it's shown with 2,000 people versus two? I'm like, yeah, it is, because
it can be, yeah.
Exactly. Like a lot of these comedians, by the time they're filling the stadium, is because they have practice with 2, 4, and then like essentially like, over time with larger and larger audiences, in order to refine their jokes down to the like microsecond of timing. And that's especially in comedy, you cannot sit there and do it by yourself. Like it's all about the room. It's a co-created thing. So like again, if the art like doesn't have a co-created component, that's totally fine. But if you want to do a co-creation thing, you need an audience who are as much a part of the art as what you're doing.
Yeah, I think comedy, I mean, we're both comedy nerds, but I think stand-up comedy is one of the most brutal forms of trial and error to create stuff, because you can't know if other people are going to enjoy what you're going to say unless like without like trying it and trying it a lot and trying it to places that just aren't picking up what you're putting down. And so I think a very reasonable way to think about a comedian that has like a stadium or a giant theater is that they have put in the reps to earn the right for that many people to listen to them for an hour chunk at a time. And that's like a very different way of thinking about like a progression in creation, where like you have to earn distribution every step of the way, because like everything you say is a chance for people to realize that you're not that funny. And that's like pretty scary. Do you have any thoughts on like how you process feedback? So we're advocating for reps, completed reps, and listening to user feedback. I think it's probably a good idea before we bounce to like talk about how you process that in a productive, non-toxic, put you in the valley of despair for the rest of your life way.
Yeah, actually, yes. Bubbles asked the same question, which is like, what do you do when you feel like people are not enjoying the stuff you're putting out? I think that the good/bad news is that I'm way more affected by how I feel when I'm putting out. And that's mostly what I'm working on. And then like what I often tell people who are, I think, afraid of putting stuff out there is like the worst part. If someone really hates it and like, verbally or like, overtly tells you, that's great. Yep. Because that means you've touched on something very visceral and you can work with that. The worst thing for a creator is crickets. Because now you're like, oh shoot, I don't know which part is missing, because it could be the thing itself, or it could be the way you market it. And most of the time it's the way you market it, which people don't want to hear. So I think like that's where the feelings around it for me are rarely about that part, because I know that if it didn't land, it's probably the marketing and we can fix that.
I'm going to go a little bit more aggressive here and be like, if people don't like it, there's two things that could be happening. People that will like it didn't see it, which is like super possible at the early stages of creating stuff, or it just wasn't that good. We put out stuff that isn't good all the time. In fact, that's our default, is like we put out stuff that isn't good and we're like trying to figure out what about it isn't good. It's not a moral failing on our part that we put out something that doesn't get like as many views as we want. It's not like a knock on us as people. But I do think that humor, engagement, those kinds of things, like aside from very obvious thumbs on the scale with some algorithmic stuff, like it's the closest thing we have to a community judging of really anything. Like this is the closest we've gotten to like a true democracy in the human experience, like ever, like algorithmic feeds. It's like horribly, skewed, but it's still the closest thing we've ever had. and like people get to decide what's funny, interesting, valuable, or entertaining. Like you can bring credibility and stuff to it, or whatever. But like ultimately, the person who's never heard of you seeing a video in their feed and like deciding whether to like it or send it to their friend, like that's as like true to the objective truth as I think anything gets. And it's unfortunate and uncomfortable to grapple with, but like, yeah, you just sometimes put out bad stuff and you need to put out more interesting, entertaining stuff if that's your goal. Like
now I'm seeing what BBB might be trying to get at, which is like, however, if you cater too much to the algorithmic feed, it becomes like a wisdom of the averages, but not in a good way. And you know, it quickly becomes like the movie Idiocracy. So, which I think is the hardest part, is that if you are trying to make something that's relatively niche, like there are people, I don't think there's such a thing as a bad product, to be like, in my opinion. There's always someone who wants your stuff, just that the more niche it is, the harder it is to find those people. So to me, almost everything is a marketing exercise, and especially for people like us who over intellectualize everything, I'm starting to see that actually is our downfall, because we're making everything almost like too smart in a way.
Yeah, no, I mean, if we want to reach mass, go ahead.
Oh yeah, that was it.
I mean, if we want to reach mass market, we got to use less $5 words probably, or clip them, right? Because like there's like shorts are commercials for your long form content. That's like, I think, the most useful way of thinking about them. You know, other people make their whole business on shorts. Like that doesn't scratch the itch that BBB is talking about. Like everything that I put out on the internet is kind of a balancing act between like my intrinsic motivation to like make stuff that other people can see, and my kind of like extrinsic, hey, if I want to have the impact I want to have, I need to reach a certain level of scale. And so I'm always like grappling with that trade-off. We talk about that a lot. Our show, I don't. So actually, this is the thing I disagree with most talking heads on. I don't think people are dumb by default. I think it's easy to say, but that generalizes a lot of really important truths about the internet, that like a lot of it isn't Western centric, even though like English is the most created in language for now. Like there's a lot of things baked in there that like I don't think we really treat fairly. And I think treating people as dumb is one of those things where like people make content that appeals to like a really base, like dumb person, and those people react to it. But I think we're leaving a lot of people that like kind of want to have a space to maybe talk more thoughtfully, like with on the internet. I don't know. We haven't talked about this.
The algorithm like disfavors that, because you know it's catering to what most people can understand, which ends up being slapstick humor because there's no language involved. Therefore, like if you're like Arjun said, like if you're catering to the algorithm, you're gonna end up with one type of product. And if you go to the watering holes, you end up with another type of product. Again, maybe smart wasn't the correct usage, because I didn't mean it was dumb, but more like complex, or like not realizing that people will pay for something that's simplified. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of different games to play. There's no right answer for everything. There's like right answers for context. You know, gotta throw that disclaimer up there.
Now I feel like I you know, again, my love of solving everyone's problems, like we're already a little over time, but I feel like everyone who's asked a question has their specific scenario. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, don't listen to advice from the people on the internet because they don't know what you're going through. Thanks for coming to our show.
Yeah. And like, you know, maybe like DC us, like if you want to continue this conversation, because I'm curious whether this particular show address your questions, because I'm wondering in like future episodes we can even be more precise, because I feel like we're trying to be practical, but in a way I'm like, okay, if I heard this show, would I know which way to skew? Because we've essentially presented multiple spectra of things you can think about, but how would you know how to tune it, you know?
Yeah, I think that like for me, advice that works for everybody is the focus on fully end-to-end completed reps and doing more of them. Like that's been the thing that has been the most success driving for us, I think. but like a specific segment on 0 to 1,000 probably makes sense. I also, BBB brings up a good point of not listening to your customers. Know that we are thinking about that. Like, we want to hear what you say, but mostly for like directional advice.
I'm playing him out.
And I'm revealing too much, but we love you and we care about you and care about your opinions, but not enough to change how we actually say what we want to say.
Okay, with that, I'll end the show. All right.
Bye, everyone.